You should watch today's video carefully if you're a senior citizen or receive Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits, because I have some breaking news that could result in significant financial gain. Arriving in your bank accounts shortly? That's correct. It appears that a new wave of stimulus payments worth up to $2,000 per person is finally being approved and sent to millions of struggling Americans after months of back and forth in Congress. This is amazing news, and it's exactly what a lot of people have been waiting for. Since gas and grocery prices are skyrocketing and inflation is through the roof, a sizable stimulus check would give many households some much-needed respite and breathing room in their budgets. If you're as excited about this as I am, click the like button right now. Let's dive right into the juicy details. Welcome to Updates Area, your go-to resource for the most recent information on Social Security and fourth stimulus payments, specifically designed for elderly citizens in the United States, including recipients of the SSI and VIA programs. I hope everyone is doing well. Let's get started. Okay, so here's the lowdown on this new stimulus program based on what my sources are telling me. The IRS is getting ready to provide seniors 65 and older one-time direct payments of $2,000 as part of the Biden administration's ongoing attempts to offset the devastating spike in consumer costs. Additionally, anyone currently receiving Social Security retirement benefits, SSDI for disability or SSI for low income, or via benefits from military service will also be eligible for the full $2,000 payment, which adds up to well over $2,000 for those who received the previous rounds of stimulus during the pandemic. It appears that the IRS has chosen to keep things straightforward and give the entire $2,000 to 60 million Americans. This isn't going to be one of those phased-out scenarios where higher-income recipients get lesser checks or nothing at all. Instead, there are a number of important aspects at play here, including the fact that every member of those recipient groups, regardless of income constraints, is eligible. You may be asking why this specific stimulus plan was created with seniors, the disabled, and lower-class people in mind. Due to their fixed salaries, which don't keep up with inflation, these populations have been particularly severely hit by the recent increase in consumer prices. Rent, utilities, petrol, groceries, and medical expenses take up a larger percentage of their meager budgets. Numerous individuals getting due to the rate at which prices have been rising over the past 12 months, Social Security and disability recipients' monthly payments have essentially had their spending power completely eliminated. The Biden administration and Congress believe that these marginalized categories of people are the ones that most need assistance, necessary financial assistance as we navigate this economic storm. Although the initial rounds of stimulus were appropriately intended to sustain the economy as a whole during COVID lockdowns, the new payment is more specifically intended to alleviate inflation for those who are most in need. Lastly, giving seniors and low-income households some cash directly was probably the next natural step for Biden's team after extending things like the student loan payment moratorium and making internet access more accessible. For all those reasons, the IRS has been granted the go-ahead to the big concern on everyone's mind right now is when precisely can we expect to receive these new stimulus checks and when that money will touch our bank accounts well based on the latest details I've heard. Hurry up and send these $2,000 direct payments to eligible Americans as quickly as humanly possible. The intention is for the first payments to be dispersed over the course of the next 5 days, which means that checks may arrive at addresses or bank accounts, may get direct deposits at the latest by the end of next week. This gives them the ability to turn. The IRS already has all the required banking information and addresses on file for seniors receiving Social Security benefits and other qualifying groups from prior stimulus rounds, which is why things have turned around so fast rather than requiring people to submit new applications or go through additional hoops as they've had to. My advice would be to make sure you have access to any bank accounts, debit cards, or current mailing addresses related to where you got stimulus or benefit payments previously sent during the period when the payments may have been processed efficiently and quickly utilizing that prior data. Pandemic that way In the event that you were not paid for stimulus during the COVID assistance packages, you will be able to promptly obtain cash or deposit this fresh $2,000 check if you were not previously eligible. Remain calm, as I realize that there will be, in a few weeks, a second phase of this rollout will begin to reach everyone who could have slipped between the cracks. First, I wanted to discuss a few other topics, but I'll make sure to inform you all as soon as I get more clarity on that process. Today's video because it seems like the $2,000 payment might just be the beginning of even larger stimulus pushes ramping up, whereas the check for seniors and lower-class people was somewhat simpler for Congress to pass because of the clearly growing need. Senators and economists working across party lines to push for yet another large stimulus package for all taxpayers in an effort to combat inflation and cost increases. I mean, a fourth stimulus check, if you will, for each and every man, woman, and child in the nation, regardless of their financial situation. The suggested level amounts range from $1,000 to $2,000 per person. The idea is that even though contributions to certain organizations offer some respite, every American is still experiencing the pain of punching 40E. There is currently high inflation in their daily lives to differing degrees, and the only real way to counteract this and increase consumer spending is to once again place a sizable amount of money in the hands of the entire population, not just the lower class and fixed income people who were assisted by the previous stimulus package. So there is still a highly active call for lawmakers from both parties and leading financial experts to approve new stimulus payments for the general public. This might entail new checks worth thousands of dollars per arriving in the bank accounts of more than 200 million Americans, in a manner akin to this. Talks appear to be continuing and quite serious at the moment, with everyone realizing how vital it is to bring financial assistance to people inject to Zappy before inflation completely derails the economy, in contrast to the 3 stimulus rounds we all remember from 2020 and 2020 to 21, course with partisan gridlock and standard DC games. As for me, nothing is set in stone just yet, but I'm feeling a lot of optimism about the positive stimulus momentum we're witnessing right now. This initial wave of $2,000 checks for homeowners, the disabled, and elderly might possibly. An additional $2,000 in cash infusion will go a very long way towards helping millions of our most vulnerable residents pay their bills. While money cannot cure the inflation situation we are in, it is an absolute game changer and lifeline for so many individuals living on fixed incomes or limited budgets. Rising costs for basic necessities such as housing, food, medicine, and utilities in the upcoming months. I think Congress and the Biden administration made the right decision by giving these groups priority when it comes to receiving stimulus aid. All I can hope for is that it is distributed swiftly and without undue complications. Or leaps to clear. After this first targeted payment is finished, there is a strong drive underway to provide a fourth stimulus check for all Americans, which is something I find really encouraging. To be honest, I didn't believe we would see another stimulus like that provided to everyone. Once more, especially since the last ones ended in 2021, but it's obvious that our severe inflation problem has changed the narrative and given Republicans and Democrats a strong feeling of urgency to approve new stimulus payments on a national level. This makes perfect sense if the objective is to increase spend by consumers and prevent a possible impending recession, because although $2,000 sounds like a lot, many middle-class and upper-class households are already struggling to make ends meet due to rising costs and other financial strains. All right, friends, that's a reality. It brings an end to this shocking stimulus update video. As you can see, there is much to anticipate, and watch this multi-phase rollout in the next days and weeks. First, keep a watch out for those $2,000 checks to start arriving. Older citizens' bank accounts, low-income disabled people, and other benefits ICI Aries will arrive very soon, possibly in the next 5 to 7 days, provided everything goes according to plan. Provided you or a loved one belongs to any of those categories, make sure you have access to any current. In a few more weeks, we should start to receive clarity on who Americans may have initially been overlooked in that first wave, and how to ensure they are squared away with the stimulus payment. If you have mailing addresses or bank accounts on file from prior stimulus payments, make sure you don't miss out. Payment as well. Lastly, I predict that during all of that, a flurry of new ideas and developments will emerge with the possibility of a stimulus check for every American. Right now, it's just a question of when and how much based on what I'm seeing.